Um, so today, folks, we have Allen and Cynthia Mondell. They are the founders and the heads of Media Projects, which is a company in Dallas that makes documentaries. They've been doing this since 1978. Allen and Cynthia met and worked with Phil Kelly. And that's why we have them here. Because we know that they will have some stuff to share with us. And so the first thing we want to find out from you is how did you get to meet Phil Kelly?
But we're working on a project called West of Hester Street. It's about Jewish immigration into the Southwest in the early 1900s. And we were at a point where we were ready for a composer. I mean, I know composers always say they want to start in the beginning and be part of the process, but you don't ever have the money
Yeah.
or the luxury as documentary filmmakers to do that because you're still raising money while the film is being finished and hoping you have enough money to pay your editor. And you know that you never pay hardly ever pay yourself. So you're always trying to juggle.
Yeah.
But we had started this was a Jewish film, and we both felt very strongly it should be a Jewish composer. And we hired somebody who I won't name. I think uh, in hindsight, he was probably very well-meaning. We had ideas, and he was going to compose something and do something. We didn't have a whole lot of experience working with the composer. We had worked with composers, but it was for short pieces. This was a much longer piece. And anyway, so we met back with this composer. It didn't go well at all, let's say. Let's say it was a horror show.
Oh no.
And we didn't know what we left, and he kept our record. I remember that he kept our record, and this was before CDs that we had because we had some music that we wanted to share with him that we were thinking about, and it was just that he hadn't ever really done this and was frustrated and wanted to probably do the right thing. But all in all, it's how some doors close and you think it's the end of the world, and really it's a rainbow comes or something. And we were working. Our editor was John Davis, and I think he knew Phil, and
Oh.
he suggested Phil. And we called Phil, and we met with him. He used to live around West Village in a I wasn't in his house, but I remember going over there to maybe pick up some music or to pick something up, but it was right around the West Village in Dallas.
Okay.
And then we got together and we talked, and we really liked Phil. I mean, he was really fun. He's an Irishman, so I
Yeah.
mean, he had a great personality. But I was thinking how he said he wanted to meet some Jewish, he wanted to immerse himself in some Jewish music. So we knew some people at the JCC, some women, and I can't remember, Alan, where we met these women, but they were singing and dancing for him. And he was having the best time. He was sitting, I can remember him sitting there hysterical because they were wiggling their bodies. And Phil just loved it. And they were singing some Yiddish music. It was oh God, it was the woman that used to do Yiddish here. I think her last name started with a C. And anyway, so he went back and started composing music for West. He came in the editing room, he watched, things, and then he started composing for us. And holy, we didn't really know what we were getting because Phil came with, I thought, can you hum it? Can you give us some sense, And I mean, you don't tell Phil what to do. He did it the way he wanted to. And he had everything. I think I don't know if he did it or if he had somebody do it, but he had these big sheets of paper that he had he had, I guess I think somebody else did the how do you say that when when you're composing and somebody's actually writing the music out?
A music copier. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he had that, and then we went to a couple of in fact our daughter remembers going with us. Um I I want to say it was Good Night or something like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Good night.
and and so
Skip Frazee. Yeah.
and he oh, we love Skip. We went to Good Night, and there was someplace else we went, and he actually had, he was actually had people, he had instruments, people come in with all their instruments and play, and you still didn't get a sense of what everything was till we mixed it, all together, and that was up. I want to say it was, and Phil liked to drink, and Phil drank and he mixed.
Hmm.
And I'm going to tell you, as as maybe, as he enjoyed the drinks, the music just got better, and it's the most beautiful score. I
Wow.
mean, the score is just beautiful throughout west of Hester Street. So we enjoyed working with him, and but it was a lot, it was work. We didn't really socialize. We actually didn't have time. We had a kid, and we were trying to raise money. We were trying to do the film, and uh it was a big film for us. So there was
So
a lot.
Cynthia, what
when you
year was that?
Huh?
What year?
That's what I don't know.
Oh, oh,
1982 maybe because the movie was released in 83.
yeah,
Oh, so then it would have been
yeah,
82. I'm
yeah,
glad that
yeah.
you're, keeping us kosher there too. Do you really have to say the dates?
Yeah.
Well, when you first brought Phil in to watch the cuts, the edits, so what cues did you give him? Did you tell him this is where we want music? This is where we want music to end? I mean, aside from the flavoring, the style, did you request certain instruments?
It it was when we talked about the clarinet and some of because it was a Jewish film, and what the kind of instruments, and from 1907 to 1914. So it was we wanted it to and it was Russian Jews.
Klezmer.
Yeah, if it was we didn't want klezmer.
Oh, okay.
But we wanted it more heart and soul in there. It was Miriam Creamer who did the dancing. That's her
Oh,
name.
okay. Oh, yeah, okay.
And singing. And she had a friend, and that they're the ones who did the singing and the dancing. I don't know if he picked any of it up or not. I mean, but he certainly enjoyed it, and so did we. It was funny as anything. Um,
So do you think that that Phil had a quick grasp of the Jewish
Oh,
flavor of
absolutely. He
music?
had a heart. Phil has so much soul. I think Phil would have had soul if it were Mexican or black. I mean, Phil just had I mean, he was Irish and his soul was huge.
Hmm.
So I mean, so the depth and his knowledge of music was incredible.
Yes.
I don't know, didn't know,
Was was that the
I
first was that the first project that Phil did for you, west of
yeah.
Hester Street?
Yeah.
So
And
was
it
the
was
next
and so we went from somebody who was incapable of composing, um and it was a very ugly and it was a very disturbing and unpleasant situation, to somebody who was brilliant. So
Yeah.
so if somebody is listening to this, I would say, when a door closes and a window opens, don't just jump. I mean, just let the good things come in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was his turnaround really quick? Did he have a score ready for you? How long did it take him to make the music?
I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know, but it wasn't like today when you say something to your editor and in an hour they go
Yeah.
on AI and they have something, cut in. Um it's not like that at all.
yes, indeed.
Uh because he actually had to write it. I mean he composed it and then he had it handwritten and he had to hire the musicians and he had to record it and then he took it, in a studio and it wasn't like he had all of them at one time. I'm sure what he did is he had the studio for like a day and but he had them stacked. It wasn't like they were and then he mi and then it was mixed,
Yes.
together. And then
Yeah.
we mixed and then we mixed it he came to our audio mix.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's where we did have a little bit of a difference because Phil wanted the music up higher than necessarily the actors talking,
Of course he did.
like every musician,
Yeah.
every
Louder.
composer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so do you remember that, Alan?
Yes, yeah,
And I
I
kept
do.
saying,
Yeah.
no, that has to be lower. You have to have it underneath them. It's not, it's a
Hmm.
bed. It's giving them the emotional. We were both, we both had to um and then
That's,
at the end of the film, we did do this. And Alan, you remember this. Um, there were so many thank yous that we kept. He said, "Get up there and record. Thank your dog. Thank this and thank." So we had like this really funny thank you at the very end that we recorded, and then we regretted it because we didn't want. It got a little silly, and then we took that out.
Yeah. Hmm.
But we had
so I
we enjoyed working with him.
the movie went on to win several awards.
A lot of awards, and it went into that was the time we did festivals, and there was a lot of festivals
Did you get any feedback about the music
oh, people loved
from
the music. I mean, they stayed and they listened to the credits. They watched the credits because of the music.
The music
I
excellent.
mean,
credit. Yeah.
people don't care about credits unless their names are in it.
Now, so the next project that he worked with you was the one called Guts, Gumption and Go-Ahead. Annie Mae Hunt Remembers? Or was that before West
Uh,
of Hester Street?
no, no, that was after West of Hester Street.
Okay.
Alan, did he
Um,
was that before the sixth floor or after the sixth floor,
I
Annie
think it was
Mae?
before, I think it was before the sixth floor museum. I
Okay.
mean, I'm not 100%, but I feel pretty strongly about
Yeah.
it
Okay,
being
so
private.
Annie Mae, we didn't have as much input in that, and we were actually filming another film, and we weren't in town. We were in Seneca Falls in Rochester filming when he was doing that, and so there were a lot of changes, and he wasn't working. We had a different editor. John stopped editing, and we were working with and so he was more working more with Phil than we were on that. But that
You,
turned
you
out
told me you told me that that was his least favorite
it was he
project.
didn't like that he didn't like the blues music. He put blues in there and he put some things in there. The first go around he changed it. But I remember it wasn't working the first go around. And so he had to change that music. And I can't remember what it was. We didn't do any, we weren't doing any mixing with him or that hands-on with Phil at that time.
Well, that was that we haven't really seen that movie, or we haven't seen West of Hester Street either. So we're
I can
kind
send you
of
a link.
well, we would love to hear it. So let's talk about the sixth floor museum. 'Cause I have heard that music, and I think that's should be our focus for the rest of the interview. It was really something else to hear his stuff in that museum. And I'm sure it was a special project for you. Stephen Fagan speaks very highly of that entire audiovisual project that you guys lent to the museum. What was it like working with Phil on the sixth floor project?
It was wonderful working with Phil on that. It was a really challenging project. We had a lot of challenges in the editing room. And it was a little different. Phil did a beautiful, beautiful score that there were six films, so it was six different, six different films. And the one film that he did, and I can't rem I have to remember which one it is. It was either the it wasn't the Legacy. It was the one the inter where we have international. It's like the world responds.
Yes, yes.
Okay. He composed something, and when we ha the p and of course it's not like today where it's digital, so you put it in and your client can watch it. But when the people wa the when this woman Lyndall Adams watched it, she hated it. And she hated it because there were bells in there. And Martin Giraud was so had to tell us that there were bells, in there, and we had to take it out. And I think, Alan, you're the one who had to tell Phil because I know I didn't want to. And let's say Phil was not pleased.
I can
The
imagine.
Phil, as an Irishman, he also had a temper, and then we saw that temper, and he was, he called them, well, let's be nice. It was not a pleasant day, but Phil's also was professional, and we talked, and and he went back and he redid it. And he used silence as well as he used the just what the people would have heard that day,
Are we talking about the day of the funeral?
the day of the funeral.
Yes.
And so there it was a whole different score that was in there, that
Wow.
and it was a beautiful score. It was absolutely beautiful. But the um the woman in charge did not, like it, and so it was a big bu it was a little mountain to climb. And but I mean, after the initial, blah blah blah, um it was Phil went back and he composed a beautiful score. And I'm sure he was used to working with clients. He did a lot of commercials and stuff like that. So he
Yeah.
was, he was, and this woman wasn't, we have worked with people who, they want, after you're finished something, they want you to jump, and then they want you to jump higher and higher just for their egos. And she, she didn't like it because of that. She didn't, music is subjective,
Yeah.
and she really, um, I mean, she honestly did not like it, and didn't ring. Well, I say ring because it was bells. Um, it didn't ring true to her because it wasn't what the people heard that day. And so
Yeah.
he went back and did something different that's breathtaking.
Yes. We Stephen Fagan, who I interviewed a couple of weeks ago, uh, brags about how thousands, millions of people have heard that music at the museum. And he says he can't imagine walking through that building without that soundtrack there, with the soundtrack's not playing, he says it doesn't even seem the same.
Mm.
So on my personal visit, honestly, I've got to go back and see it again because I missed a couple of those kiosks where the films were playing. I saw the audiovisual theater and sat and listened to that. The Funeral, The Legacy, great stuff. But
The
I actually
legacy has
walked.
changed.
It
The
has,
legacy,
yes.
yeah, they actually changed the legacy. We did it. Um, and they changed it because they said nobody knows who Walter Cronkite is. So even though it's a history museum,
Yes.
and
Yes.
and nobody knows who Walter Cronkite is. So Al and I thought, well, I don't want to tell you what we thought. I'm not
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you're not going to say it either, Alan, even though I'm not giving you a chance to talk because I don't want anybody to know what we said. But what we did say that is if we don't change it, they'll hire somebody else to. So we're going to
Uh-huh.
do it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he did care about the sixth floor. You know, he did care about
Oh
doing that
yeah.
project very, very much.
Yeah.
And yeah, and the sounds Daryl, when you talk about the sounds when we when they we were up there doing all the testing, and they didn't let a lot of people up there, but I mean, when they put in the monitors, and then everything, and we were walking around, and you could hear all the sounds come, going like that. But what it felt like that whole weekend.
Wow.
That weekend was so horrible, and for people who lived lived it back then, a president dying, it was a
Hmm.
chaotic country, nobody knew really who killed him or why, and then the killer getting shot, and it was like, I mean, today it would feel probably normal, but I mean back then,
Yeah.
and it was people did not, it was, in people's minds, it was, everything was disjointed. And if you walk the halls, not that the music is disjointed, but if you just hear the sounds coming that are so different coming together outside of where they're being shown, I think it makes people's experience at the sixth floor feel even more real, that they're actually, part of that weekend.
Mm.
Absolutely.
And then you sit down in a theater and you decompress, and it's I mean, my favorite really is, the nation and world respond, because I can hear, I mean, there's even even the beat, there's a beat there where Jackie trips and he's got the music right
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. He would do that. Mm.
I
there. I
understand
mean,
that the
yeah.
budget was a little tight, that he had to use synthesizer to make a lot of the music for the museum. But that did not hinder the effect at all. During the world response, there is one chord, an arpeggio, a synthesizer chord that still rattles in my head, and it is a chord of confusion and despondence
Yeah.
and panic, and it really nails the mood. And I still can't get that chord out of my head. It's crazy how that
Hmm.
just lingers on in your memory. But that was the magic of Phil Kelly.
And it was, I mean, that's perfect. That's the perfect name for your project, The Magic of Phil Kelly.
Just a
Well,
side note, he passed on November 22nd.
Oh,
Oh my
So
God.
I've
wow.
been waiting
just
to tell y'all that.
Yeah.
Oh
Because
my
y'all,
God.
for y'all, it'll mean more than any. I've told it to other people, but to y'all, it kind
Oh
of hits a
wow.
note, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It
Wow.
sure does.
Yeah.
I
well,
mean, just
folks, I
the one thing I want to kind of add is, what what the sixth floor museum meant to me. I was in a Peace Corps in Sierra Leone
Hmm.
when he was killed.
Oh
Okay.
wow.
And I was there, with a group of other people, you know, wondering what was going to happen with him,
Wow.
with family, with us in the Peace Corps. So that was just a very special and strange, and time for me, and
Yeah.
for the people that I worked with, and spent time
Wow.
with. And so when I could come to Dallas and be involved in the sixth floor museum was one of the most significant things of my life at that point, that I was going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I was very lucky to have her, uh, to be part of it, because as you, her being you, Cynthia.
Oh,
um,
oh. Well, I think we
yeah,
were I
right.
think we were both very lucky to have found Phil. We, the way we just, and for our relationship to,
It
to
was
go
magical. Yeah, there's a
Yes,
lot of magic.
to go over three films that wouldn't have the same,
Hmm.
feeling if we didn't have Phil Kelly's music in it.
yeah, and I
Wow.
agree. I agree with that.
Wow.
So
So I feel really privileged to talk to both of you about this. This is, I mean, you have contributed to a national treasure at the Sixth Floor Museum, and you continue to make important pieces of works, to promote social justice. And I'm very proud to be to having, contributed to your
Well,
cause.
thank you very much, and thank you for your contribution. Appreciate it. We're still,
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Alan may not remember, but he's still making films today. So,
Yeah, that's
Yes.
good.
I saw one about the state fair. I can't wait to see that one.
yeah,
I,
it's
we,
good.
we'd like to bring everybody's attention to your website and know that if they're interested in seeing your films, they can go to mediaprojects.com to
no,
see
dot
a
org.
whole .org. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
mediaprojects.org to see a whole listing of all of your works. And if you're interested, you can definitely contact them through the website for further information.
And
Well,
also inhershoesfilm.com. There's a new film, and we were encouraged to make a complete website for that, which having more than one website's a real challenge, but
Oh
I know
yeah.
the feeling. Yes.
financially and keeping it up. But
Yeah.
yeah, but Phil, I want to say a couple things about Phil because I really think that um when you think about it, how much there, you work as filmmakers, we work with a lot of people, and you don't love everybody, even though you try to create a real community, and you really become close to a lot of people. And if he walked in here today, I feel close to him. But it was a lot of years, that you don't see people. You do have other projects you go on. And Phil started dating, wasn't I don't think he was dating Kathy when he did West of Hester Street. And I think he was dating her later on, in a later part, because we met him. Did he live on Pinocchio, or Snow, wait, it was Snow White. Did he live on a street called Snow White or something
Yeah,
like that?
yeah,
And
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
was
Yeah.
it
So
Snow
and
White?
Yeah, that's where
we visit
that's where he and Kathy lived. Yeah.
yeah, so we visited him there, and but it was more for work,
Yeah,
and
that he always had his office in his house. That was just comfortable. Even on Fair Oaks over by Greenville, where you had mentioned, I was trying to rack my head what a studio that was on Greenville. I thought it might have been Tony Griffith, but I couldn't remember if that was the one that it was.
Fair Oak sounds it was Good Night, and there was another one, and I
Yeah, it was
think it's down.
January and Good Night, and then he worked with Tony Griffith a lot off of Regal Row. There was one that was way down there by
Yeah, do that one.
the sound stage at their Las Colinas. But yeah, it's it's always good to hear anything that I can hear because, like I said, he was working all the time, and when y'all are talking about you didn't really socialize, you did because if you were in the studio with him, that's how he socialized. And mixing down was one of the things I would go and I watched him do all of Mary Kay's whole epitaph years and years before she ever passed by
Mm.
sitting there in the studio with him and watching him mix it down. I mean, that's how he got along with people. And, he got to see what he did, because it's hard to explain what he does. It's all in his head.
But there's a mixers and there's mixers, and we've worked with a lot of different ones.
Yeah.
And mixing is an art form, and it's like you have to feel the notes, you have to feel the pacing, you have to feel the soul of what you're composing, and for us the soul of the film. And Phil had that kind of soul, and you can hear it in his music. There's a depth in there that
Yeah.
that moves you, an emotion that moves you. It's not just something that's up here, it's down deep in here.
Yeah.
And so I mean, he was so gifted, so gifted.
Commercials aren't as good as they used to be. I always think that the music was so much better back when he was doing a lot of them. You know, the stuff you hear now is all digital and computerized, and it's just not the same. It's better to have like a whole. He would stuff a whole symphony inside a little room and record something. It's hilarious, really, to think
Yeah.
about it.
Uh, I can't wait to hear the music that he's done for you. That's that's going to be a real treat. Everything that we've heard him do is quality stuff. I mean, he
Yeah.
Phil did not do bad music. He made nothing but good music. He just had the greatest ear, and he just had this ability to put it together and make it work every time.
Hmm. I agree.
But I can still see him sitting there with Miriam Creamer and her friend doing that. That was just,
Mm.
that was just hilarious.
That's funny.
That was really funny.
And
Okay.
yeah, we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, guys.
You've
Appreciate
been
it.
Bye.
you two have been a pleasure, and of course, and my wife, of course.
Oh, yes, both.
The